This episode today is for all of the injured athletes out there. So, whether you jammed a finger and it's awkward to throw now, or maybe you full blown tore your ACL, you can benefit from these very specific 7 tips I'm going to share today. Injuries are a part of sports, they simply come with the gig. It's very important that you have a healthy process in response to them because they can be very hard to get through depending on the person, the situation, the level of severity. 1 minute you can be playing every single day, every single minute. And the next you're sitting in the doctor's office waiting to be told a timeline and hoping you can get back as soon as possible. So injuries are a big test of character and they can teach you a lot of things if you let them. So the 7 tips I'm walking you all through today are very applicable for every athlete. Some tips may not fully apply to individual sports, but that's okay. It's still good to take in and see if you can adapt it, make it work for you in any way. I'll work with a lot of athletes who are injured. Some come to me right away with an injury that maybe they're almost done rehabbing and they're fearful of returning to full play. Some athletes I've been working with for months and then they get injured in the middle of our work. And then some come to me right away when it happens because they don't really know how to handle an injury. So again, injuries are not easy to get through, but there are things that you can do in the process to make it easier, more productive, and better rehab journey for yourself. Diving right in here, tip number 1 is to keep a routine. So when athletes lose their sport, they often lose a lot of structure. They might be just going home after school and not doing anything. They've completely given up working out. They aren't going to practice anymore. They aren't waking up at the same time anymore. So it's really easy to lose that sense of structure that you once had. So I would really recommend is waking up at the same time every single day, still setting your alarm, still going to bed at the same time every day. Keep that really consistent. And then still keep some sort of structure and routine. Schedule your rehab, schedule your workouts, time for schooling, time for family, social time still. That is very important. It keeps your mind busy, keeps you productive, and without structure, it's a lot easier for your thoughts to spiral, for you to not feel like you're doing anything. It's really easy to get negative. So that is probably the most important tip that I'm going to give you today is keeping a routine as best as you can. It might be a different routine, but still plan out your days and what you want them to look like. Tip number 2 kind of falls along with the routine. Go to all team practices still, if allowed, for several reasons. One, because isolation makes everything worse because you're feeling alone, you are alone, so you feel like you aren't a part of the team anymore. So make sure you're really staying connected with your teammates, you're showing up, you're staying present, you're still part of something. You're still on the team. Injury doesn't remove your jersey by any means. You can still have an impact just in what may seem like a different role. And it shows a lot about your character too. It shows that to your teammates and your coaches how much you care. You can still be inspiring on the sideline. If you can't sprint and run suicides with your teammates, then maybe you're over there doing push-ups or sit-ups. So you're telling your teammates a lot by you still showing up every single day, shows how invested you are and shows how much you still care, even more so than being healthy, because it's not like you can go and practice, right? It takes a lot more energy and effort and willingness to still show up at all the practices, competitions, meets, games, everything. Number 3 is do what you can do. There's a big shift from what can't I do to what can I do. It's easy for athletes who are injured to fall into that mindset of looking at everything they can't do and things that they wish they could be doing. So let's say if they sprained their ankle, well, they can't be doing any sort of leg workouts, right? They'll be stuck in a boot for a very long time. They can't run, they can't sprint, maybe bike, I don't know. But if you get caught in that mindset of looking at everything that you can't do, then one, it's going to make it a whole lot more miserable for you. It's going to be a lot more negative. You're going to be feeling sorry for yourself. Nobody really likes to be around that person that is feeling sorry for themselves and looking at everything that they can't do. So ask yourself, what is it that I can do? Well, I can do my PT exercises. Great. Maybe if you sprain your ankle, you can really work on upper body lifts. and really isolate that muscle group. Maybe you can isolate your core. You can film study. You can be observing practices and looking at what the coaches really like. You can be looking at your teammates and learning from them, working on your nutrition, developing those good habits outside of your sport. Maybe you're reaching out to someone like me and working on mental training, picking up visualization. All of those things also make you feel so much more confident and empowered because you know that you're doing possibly every single thing that you can do to be that much more ready when you get back. So it builds confidence. It keeps you focused on everything that you can do, helps aid in the recovery and the rehab process so much better. But the inaction fuels helplessness. And again, that's not going to help you at all. It's not going to positively impact those around you. So do what you can do. It might be different. Number 4 is to set new weekly goals. This is kind of funny because progress may feel really slow, especially if you're looking at big picture. I mean, if you tore your ACL, it's 9 to 12 month long rehab, right? So if you're just looking to get back, those are probably going to be a miserable 9 to 12 months for you. So maybe this week you can bend your knee 10 degrees more. Heck yeah. Let's celebrate that. Let's acknowledge that. Maybe you can take a step without a crutch. Yes, let's make sure we're acknowledging those things because that motivates you to do another thing like that, and then another thing like that, and then another thing like that. Maybe you set a goal to improve your sleep. So you're going to bed 15 minutes earlier tonight. If you achieve that, then yes, but we need to find new things that you can work towards and acknowledge. That way, when you achieve them, your brain gets this dopamine hit and encourages you to keep on going. It's going to be a long rehab process, though, if your goal is to just get back playing. We need to break it up into smaller parts. That way, it's more manageable and it keeps you a lot more focused. Tip number 5 is to ask yourself, what is this injury possibly teaching me? And I don't work on this question with my athletes until usually a little later into the rehab process. Maybe they just tore their ACL. I'm not in the next session ever asking them, well, what can we be positive about? What can we start focusing on? What could this be teaching you? No, let's sit in the suck for a moment, okay, before we start looking at the positives and what this could possibly be teaching you. But what I have noticed through all the athletes I've worked with that have been injured, the injuries often teach them a lot of patience, a lot of trust, resilience, gratitude. Something really cool that I see my athletes is if they maybe have a lot of fear of failure and they get injured, they're out for a couple weeks to a couple months. It actually really helps them release that fear because they're just so grateful to be playing again and have working legs, a working arm, whatever it might be, that there is no fear anymore. Like, screw making mistakes. I don't care. I'm just simply happy to be here. So I find it very interesting when sometimes it's a forced lesson for them. It usually helps them work on perspective too. So kind of going back to tip number 3 is looking at what you can do versus what you can't do. So start asking yourself, what could this be shaping in me? Why could this potentially be happening to me? You might not have the answer to that question right away, and that's okay. Heck, you might not know the answer to this till 2 years down the road. You're looking back, you're like, that's what that injury taught me. Okay. And you'll be much more appreciative of it. So again, I'm not really working on that question for a while into the injury, but that is a great question to ask yourself and see what this is giving you an opportunity to really develop that maybe you wouldn't have developed if you didn't have an injury, because the growth does not always look very generous. Tip number 6 is look at developing some sort of new hobby, because when your identity is only in your sport, injuries can feel like everything is gone. My athletes who have been injured that have had the easier rehab processes, I'll say, they take up fishing, they start golfing, lots of reading. Maybe they're looking to cook more. One of my athletes, she got injured and her parents started making her cook dinners, which was cool. So she would be even more ready for when she went to college. Maybe you're picking up journaling. Maybe you're getting more social time. I don't know, but looking at something else where you can focus on and learn naturally makes you feel like you're growing in a different way. And then it helps you go back to your sport because, sport is not absolutely everything. I'm more than this. And it's a little easier to look at the things that you now have time for in an injury versus everything that you might be missing out on. And tip number 7 is to define your new role. This is very important, especially if you are on a team. Your role might have been the starter. You might have been the lead scorer. So ask yourself now, what's my role? Am I the motivator? Am I the encourager on my team? Am I taking stats in practice now? Am I taking stats in the dugout now? Am I hyping up my teammates? Am I helping to mentor the younger players who are on the team? Am I more of like an assistant coach now? So what's my new role for the team and how can I best own that? I was working with one of my hockey guys. He was out for just a week, but we were asking him the same question. So this next week, obviously your role isn't to be the starter. You're out. What can your role be? How can you still positively impact the team? And he said, you know what? I can fill up waters. Great. You be the best water boy that your team has ever had. And so he did that. And it was actually comical. He made his teammates laugh. He was filling up their waters. He was showing them how much he cares and that he was still showing up. And that was still really inspiring for his teammates because they knew how much he hated to be out, but he was showing them how to respond to an injury. And then when another guy got injured, because it's hockey, they get injured all the time, he showed him this is the right way to respond to an injury. And it was this chain reaction. And now everybody was responding in a much more positive way. And when athletes can step into a role, they regain a sense of purpose. So that is very important. Injuries teach us a lot of things. They give you an opportunity to work on different muscles. So physically, different exercises, but also mentally. Um, you might have to practice patience in a way that you have never practiced patience before. Maybe you need to really work on the athletic identity. And this was one of the only ways that you could have really worked on that if you didn't get injured. So in summary, it's very important through an injury to keep a routine, keep some structure, still go to all of your team events, all of your team practices. You're still part of the team. It helps you feel connected still. Do what you can do. Again, what you can do might look differently, but get focused on everything that you're gaining versus everything that you're losing. Set new weekly goals. Those might sound silly, but if you get a bend in your knee, that's a win. Keep stacking it. Ask yourself, what could this injury possibly be teaching me? Let's try to find a lesson within it for yourself. Look to develop new hobbies to keep yourself busy. And then especially, last but not least, define what your new role is to help you gain that sense of purpose again. Athletes, for more help navigating an injury, please reach out to me, Georgia at rootedsportspsycoach.com. Thank you for tuning in, you all, and we will see you next week.